The Silent Radio, Part 2, The Dissonance. The human mind is built to find patterns. We look at the clouds and see shapes. We look at the stars and see stories. But when I looked at that silver radio, I didn't see a story anymore. I saw a cage. For the first few days, the radio felt like a gift from a higher power. I was living exactly 24 hours ahead of the world. I knew when the rain would start before the clouds formed. I knew the contents of my mail before the postman turned the corner. I felt like the architect of my own reality, walking through a life where every surprise had been dismantled and laid bare. But on Tuesday morning, the harmonies snapped. I had tuned the dial to Wednesday morning, expecting the usual comfort of my routine. The sound of the kettle, the birds in the eaves, the familiar creak of the floorboards. Instead, I was met with a silence so heavy it felt physical. It wasn't the silence of a quiet house. It was the silence of a tomb. A total, suffocating vacuum of sound. Then, out of that void, came a noise that didn't belong in my world. Schlick. Drag. Schlick. Something heavy and wet was being dragged across the hardwood of my living room. It sounded saturated, like a sodden carpet or a piece of raw meat. And then, through the speaker, I heard a voice. It was my voice, but it was thin, jagged, and trembling with a terror I had never felt. "Don't look at the window, Elias," my future self whispered. "Whatever you do, stay away from the glass." The panic didn't hit me all at once. It seeped in like cold water. I spent the next 6 hours in a state of hyperfixation. I told myself that the radio wasn't showing me an inevitable fate. It was a warning. If I changed my actions now, the future would have to recalibrate. That was the only thing that made sense. I decided to leave. I packed a small bag, just the essentials, and headed for the door. I told myself I'd drive until I hit the coast, far away from this cabin and its haunted frequencies. But as my fingers touched the cold metal of the door handle, the radio erupted. It wasn't static. It was the sound of wood splintering, a violent, bone-chilling crash that echoed through the speakers. And then, I heard the future version of myself sobbing. "I shouldn't have tried to leave," the voice cried. "It was waiting on the porch. It was waiting for the door to open." I pulled my hand back, as if the handle had turned into a burning coal. My heart was thumping against my ribs like a trapped bird. I realized then that the radio wasn't just a receiver. It was a mirror. Every time I tried to find an exit, the reflection of my future shifted to block me. I was trapped in a paradox of my own making. If I stayed, something was coming through the glass. If I left, I was walking right into its arms. I chose to stay and fight. I spent the afternoon boarding up the windows with heavy plywood I found in the shed. I drove the nails in with a feverish intensity, my breath coming in short, jagged gasps. I wanted to turn the cabin into a black box, a place where the outside could no longer see the inside. I wanted to break the connection. When I was finished, the house was plunged into darkness, lit only by the ghostly, pulsing orange glow of the radio's vacuum tubes. I sat back at my desk and waited. I wanted to hear the sound of the boards holding. I wanted to hear the silence turn back into the safety of a normal morning. But the radio didn't play the sound of success. It played the sound of wet, rhythmic tapping. Tap, tap, tap. It was the sound of long, soft fingers hitting the plywood from the outside. Not trying to break in, but testing the wood, appreciating the texture. Like a predator admiring the walls of a cage. I looked at the silver dial, my vision tunneling. For the first time, I noticed words etched into the metal frame, hidden under decades of grind. The act of watching completes the circuit. It hit me then. By listening to my future, I wasn't avoiding it, I was manifesting it. My obsession was the bridge. The more I prepared for the horror, the more I invited it to be real. I grabbed a heavy wrench from my toolbox. My knuckles were white, my mind a storm of static. If I smashed the radio, would the future disappear? Or would I just be forced to face it in total darkness, without any warning at all? I raised the wrench high above my head, ready to shatter the glass. "Don't do it," a voice whispered. I froze. It wasn't my voice. It wasn't the sobbing man from tomorrow. It was a woman's voice, cold, melodic, and sounding as though it were coming from deep beneath a frozen lake. "If you break the glass, Elias, we don't have to wait for tomorrow." I didn't turn around. I couldn't move. I just stared at the reflection in the radio's glass dial. In the dim orange light, I saw a shape standing directly behind my chair. It was tall, impossibly thin, with skin the color of wet parchment. Its head was tilted at an angle that should have snapped wood. Its eyes, there were no eyes, just two black, bottomless pits that seemed to be drinking in the light of the room. The figure raised a long, spindly finger to its lips. Shh. And then, on the radio broadcast, exactly 24 hours ahead, I heard myself scream. It wasn't a scream of pain. It was a scream of total, shattering realization. The sound of a man who finally understood that he hadn't been watching his future. He had been feeding it.